Marimo and Aerocook, a rivalry that has sure been entertaining in the series. But have we taken it too far? Hello my Nakamatachi, this is JoyGirl with quite a different video in that this is not a review nor a theory, but I wanted to discuss something that is quite close to my heart. First of all, let me start by saying that this is probably the hardest video I've ever had to write. After the last chapter, I was made aware of the so-called toxicity that happened between the two fan bases, the Zoro and Sanji camps within the One Piece community. And this is as much of the extent that I will discuss of the last chapter apart from a fan requested cover story which does not spoil anything in terms of the actual story, so all fans including anime only One Piece fans can watch this video. From my understanding, this toxicity occurred largely on a Reddit spoiler thread, and I don't frequent the Reddit spoiler threads myself, so I might not have a complete grasp of the situation, but apparently the fighting got so bad to the point that the comments section on the thread was locked so as to avoid further toxicity. And whilst this may be one of the worst occasions of such fighting, the animosity between the two fan bases certainly isn't new. Whenever a new chapter which features an awesome feat of one of the characters, it seems to spark arguments of who is stronger or more useful, with one fanbase often ridiculing and putting down the other. Now, I'm fortunate enough to be a channel where, so far, I have not encountered these types of comments and arguments, because that would seriously sadden me because this channel was created with the idea of spreading the awesomeness of One Piece and the absolute joy I feel when consuming this one hell of a beautiful manga. Of course, I understand that this only applies to a small and particular section of One Piece fans. I mean, not all Zoro or Sanji fans belong or participate in this frankly over-the-top rivalry that goes on online. And I really don't mean to offend anyone, but I think this is an important issue that is raised because it has a lot to do with how we understand One Piece so that we can enjoy it more. To be honest, I find it very hard to understand this animosity because this is an issue only existent within the fans. Even the voice actors for Zoro and Sanji are very close, and whilst the rivalry exists within the characters within the story, I definitely don't think this is what Oda intended for the community. So this is my attempt to try and ease out this ongoing rivalry. The rivalry which exists between the characters is definitely a great point of comedy within the series, which stems from their conflicting personalities and the duo's consistent attempts to one-up each other. Indeed, the rivalry is hinted at again in chapter 997, when the fan-requested cover story includes a raccoon dog hitting a woman-obsessed Sanji, and Oda includes his own twist by having the creature use Zoro's three-sword style to reprimand Sanji. But this rivalry between the characters is supposed to enhance our enjoyment of One Piece, not take away from it. Zoro and Sanji are two of my favourite characters within the series, which is why this news shocked me quite a bit. Honestly, I can never actually decide on who I like more because the two are very unique characters that serve different roles within the story. And the sooner we accept the similarities and differences between Zoro and Sanji, the sooner we can accept and fully enjoy their characters for who they are. Starting with Zoro, whose dream is to become the strongest swordsman in the world and currently holds the role of the crew's combatant. As such, Zoro has to be strong and was written in that way for that purpose. But by no means does this mean that Sanji is a slouch, because whilst his dreams are not combat focused, he is still considered one of the top fighters of the Straw Hat crew, and this is exactly how Oda has been depicting Sanji since he was introduced. And I think a lot of the disputes have to do with the fact that since the time skip, Sanji's character has been relegated to more of a comical relief than showcasing his ability as a fighter. What happened in the latest chapter isn't new, where Sanji serves a comical purpose while Zoro gets a badass moment. I understand that Sanji has not looked good in terms of combat since the time skip, and this lack of combat portrayal is even more glaring if you take into account the fact that he had an entire arc focused around him in which he did not have much flashy showing in terms of combat, apart from dodging Katakuri's jelly beans and kicking Avid in the face. Hell, his only win within the arc was off-screen when he defeated his brother Yonji. On the other hand, Luffy had more time dedicated to his fights in the Year of Sanji, but we need to understand that Luffy is the main character of the series, and so portrayal of his physical growth is more important based on his character trajectory, with Luffy now currently up against the Yonko. Imagine if we dedicated some of the long fights Luffy had to Sanji, and say, Luffy only fought once in the Whole Cake Island arc, which only lasted 2 chapters. Would it be believable within the story if he would be now able to take on a Yonko right away in the next arc? To the exception of the Luffy vs Katakuri fight, which I did feel dragged a bit and its purpose could have been achieved in a shorter amount of chapters, I understand the decision behind the battles within the Whole Cake Island arc. Of course, at the time, I too wanted Sanji to have epic battles, but once I realized what Oda was trying to tell with Sanji's story, I understood it. Back to Zoro and Sanji, these arguments largely center around the two characters' combat abilities and the fights they engage in throughout the series. Which is understandable because One Piece is ultimately within the genre of a shonen battle manga, but as we have surely come to see by now, One Piece is so much more than just fighting and action. Characters can be impressive individuals and achieve badass feats, not necessarily in combat terms. So, if you really think about it, Sanji baking a cake that could tame a Yonko's hunger is actually pretty impressive. I mean, he could have literally been the first person to defeat or kill a Yonko in post-time skip One Piece if he had chosen to poison that cake. But the moral compass within this character would not allow it, and this is what Oda was trying to tell us. Oda was not willing to sacrifice all the time he spent on developing Sanji's character to just make him look undisputedly badass. And as the world of One Piece keeps evolving and expanding, more characters are introduced, and for Oda to tell his story properly, it requires him to dedicate more time into other characters, and this has seemingly resulted in Sanji's combat moments taking a backseat, while Zoro still gets to have his cool moments. And this is where we need to understand the purpose behind these characters. Zoro needs to fight to stay relevant to the story because he is a fighter first and foremost. Due to his very short backstory, everything around his character development is centered entirely around combat. Conversely, Sanji has a very clear role within the crew, and in fact, apart from being a chef, Sanji is also the tactician of the crew who helps the situation in every arc. I mean, think back to Arlong Park, Alabasta, and Enies Lobby. His reliability is actually something recognized and acknowledged by even Zoro. Sanji's character is also that of a perverted gentleman, and due to his extensive backstory, his character is more fleshed out and versatile to the story than Zoro's. To that end, I don't think Oda featuring less of Sanji in cool fights is a sign that he hates Sanji as people claim. Quite the opposite. Oda has developed a complex character whose multifaceted personality serves multiple utilities within the crew and in the story in comparison to Zoro. They are both badass, though one in more traditional lines and overtly portrayed than the other. So Zoro will need to always kick some ass and have awesome badass moments because his character demands it, and this will likely continue until the end of the series. I mean, what else is he going to do with those cool swords if he doesn't? On the flip side, we can rely on Sanji for funny moments, pleasant surprises, and whilst it may not be as frequently as Zoro's, we still get some cool awesome fighting moments from time to time. And again, if you think about it, this is nothing new. This dynamic has existed since the beginning of One Piece. When Zoro was first introduced, he was portrayed predominantly in terms of his strength. Alongside Luffy, Zoro defeated the main villain of that arc, with the swordsman even delivering the last blow on Morgan. Whereas in Sanji's introductory arc, he did not defeat anyone truly noteworthy, even as Zoro got that awesome fight against Mihawk in the Baratie arc. Arguably, Sanji did not win the battle against Gin through his strength or power. If anything, Gin lost that fight because he was unable to kill Sanji because of who Sanji is as a person. From their very introductions, Zoro's spotlight has always been his fighting ability, and Sanji's spotlight has been his personality. This is how it has always been, and how Oda intends to portray the characters. Which is why I think it's a shame to see the harsh animosity between the two fan bases. And it's not like I'm completely immune to wanting to see more of each character. As a Zoro fan, I would like to see more of Zoro's deeper backstory, and as a Sanji fan, I want to see more of Sanji fighting. But we should remember that the series is not yet over, and we may very well get more of both. But the way the story has been written, the two characters with their similarities and differences complement each other. And at the end of the day, we all love One Piece, and like all of us, Zoro and Sanji are crewmates who, if it comes down to it, would be willing to risk their lives for each other. And the absolute fact will never change that these two are Luffy's most trusted men. Despite all their petty squabbling and competing, when push comes to shove, the two make a great team and are unstoppable against foes. And this is what we should take away. The Straw Hat crew would not be the same without the stoic and badass Zoro, nor the slick and yet comical Sanji. And whilst the two characters are by no means small elements within the story, we should remember that they are only a part of the journey, albeit an important part, but still not the main focus. And their rivalry? An even smaller piece. There is just so much to enjoy and love about the series. And it also seems like in relative terms, we won't have much of that story left to enjoy. So we should savor it all the more whilst it lasts. So I think it's sad that some fans focus on this small element within the story, which is only supposed to serve some comedy in the first place, is resulting in such harsh and intense negativity within what is otherwise a truly wonderful community. When you read One Piece and follow the journey that Oda has set us up for, it becomes clearer and clearer that the goal of the series is to create happiness. Oda puts in so much work and dedication to spread joy and increase our enjoyment of the series. And I hope we can all take away that message and let others do the same. But that's enough from me. I would be interested to hear what you think, so please feel free to leave a comment below. Please like, share or subscribe if you enjoyed today's video. This is JoyGirl, and I'll see you again soon.